Part 2 of the Triple Ticket, Part 1 down below. In the second MC session, before D-Day, I faced up to my shortcomings in the marriage and even used the phrase emotional abuse when admitting to what I had done and gave these as examples. The ex just shrugged them off because she already her AP. So, am I fully aware of my contribution in the breakdown, but you know what makes me realize this is for the best? I knew exactly what I needed to do to make the marriage better, including stopping these empty threats, poor negotiation methods. But I didn't do it because the ex wouldn't have even been willing to meet me halfway. Sometimes I think this is moving too fast, but whatever will be, and as I maintain, whatever the final LT outcome of this, I think I'd always recommended a fast D process, as it provides something tangible to support recovery from infidelity. Something is troubling me today and I'm not sure if it's healthy or that important in the grand scheme of things. Given how stoic I have been and having lived the 180 since D-Day, in my limited dealing with the ex around D, finances, and kids, she seems to think everything is fine and that everyone is happier. She really doesn't see the pain and hurt I am going through and certainly doesn't appear to care that her infidelity has caused any problems to anyone. Not sure how choosing another man over seeing her kids every day isn't a problem. So, given I am close to D and the settlements that I need to move on, is it now worth highlighting to her the real impact this has caused everyone, me, the boys, friends, family, strangers? Or is it just something I have to put up with? I want to rebuild my life. It's the connection to the kids that make this so very difficult. How can you truly detach when 50% of your time is spent raising the kids to be better than she is and the other 50% of the time wishing you were with the kids? I love them unconditionally, of course, but sometimes wish I hadn't had the boys but instead met somebody who shared my life map. Somebody who was able to resist temptation and raise a family together. As one quick update, I've got my boys this week and it's amazing to be around them. They really lift my spirits and are a joy in this Sean T sandwich. Also had some small thoughts of indifference towards the STBXW which were unexpected but welcome. I got the paperwork through from the mediation solicitor. Only issue is, the memorandum of understanding doesn't mention my concern about the AP meeting and raising my boys before they settle into the new routine. Plus any married father and boss who happily gets involved with another married mother is a long way from decent enough to be near the kids he's directly impacted. The financial part is correct and will made into a legally binding consent order, but is this my only chance to stop the OM being around my kids until after divorce, at least? I guess the consent order is only finance related. Though I will ask my other solicitor. I'm in England, so law and time is not in my side. I think the first request will get a short response. He's got so much to offer then will no doubt reappear. I will make the second official though. It was discussed but nothing wrong with it being formal. I'm working on it as fast as I can. Fortunately, I've limited comms to just kids and D, but I do hear and sense the odd disbelief that we can't all be friends. Her ego is huge. She thinks she can have the world and all that is in it. The STBX is pretty good at the no comms back actually. Makes me wonder if she is doing the 180. Or perhaps just busy in La La Land. He doesn't give a rat's about my boys, but he tells her he does all the time, because he tells her exactly what she wants to hear to ensure her dark blue panties are constantly coming off for him. I feel like I care less and less about them every day. The concerns on his dealings with the boys are real for me, but even then, I know I can act if anything seems off during the early days. I'm very close to my 7-year-old son. He will tell me anything and everything. Kids list is the thing that keep me strong and going, really enjoying the freedom to be the dad I've always wanted to be. The girlfriend comment makes me laugh. Think I'm in a similar situation and I have very low expectations. It's actually my 8-year anniversary tomorrow. At least I made it past the 7-year itch. So, the wife seems to be stalling on signing the mediation documents. Some bull about not seeing my prompts for her to sign because Messenger isn't working, despite her ability to still like posts on FB seems okay. The real tough event this week came from my 7-year-old son, putting him to bed. He has a picture of me and the STBX on his bedside, a happy, cuddly photo from over 10 years ago. He just turned to me and burst out crying, saying I just want you to be together like that photo. It always makes me cry when I look at it. Of course, this set me off too, but I managed to tell him this was a happy time. There will be sad times for him ahead too, but we must remember the good times too. Then reiterated that it wasn't his fault, went as far to say it's your mother's fault, this time, and that we will always love him and be there for him in the happy and sad times too. 7 years old and his emotions are so strong, it scares me for the future. My side of the family is Irish too, so tens of cousins but all still in Ireland. My folks are 2 hours away though, are very close to them and are the only ones to have looked after the boys. Unfortunately, the mom-in-law and stepdad are harmless but not fit to look after them for 5 minutes, let alone overnight. So that is a good thing. I need to expand my local support network though. The POSW has a monopoly on the school mums. I'm working on the nursery mums, so to speak. A day of deep reflection for me. Let's just park the infidelity for now and go back to basics. Hands up, my part in the destruction of my marriage can be listed. 1. I was emotionally abusive for the past 3 years. I allowed my anger with not getting what I wanted, bonding, my voice heard, my parenting style adopted, to spill over into threats to leave and name-calling. 2. I had to validate everything I did with my wife. If she disagreed or blanked me, I thought something was wrong with our marriage. This led me to be very defensive in arguments. 3. I have a deep need for respect in any relationship, and when I feel it goes missing, I tend to go missing too. 4. I wasn't a natural father at the start of fatherhood. I found it incredibly difficult to get involved with them at an early age. I lacked confidence in this area and I gave myself a hard time over it. This spilled over into my marriage, as I felt I was letting my wife down. 5. I took too much personal responsibility for the family. I made decisions over jobs, commutes, house purchases, which friends to see vastly reduced me time, because I wanted the best for my wife and kids. But I held resentment when my needs weren't reciprocated, linked to points 1 to 3. There are more, but of course, I'd never accept that any of the above justifies someone having an affair, but it does go a long way to understanding why it occurred. My STBX did put up with a lot of Sean T from me, did initially try to get us to MC years ago and used to try to get me to talk about it calmly. It's also true to say she had given up on this a long time ago, perhaps years ago, and I suspect she didn't love me for a lot longer than before the AP came along. Then again, she didn't tell me this, possibly because of 2 above. It also made me realize I need to keep up my IC to avoid any mistakes I made in future relationships. Perhaps the biggest outcome of this is that I can actually see that I need to change. This couldn't have continued. The box of darkness was a gift. I'd even go as far as saying that, under textbook remorse circumstances, I would now consider are not that I wish for, nor expect it. I don't blame myself for the infidelity, but I do believe an important part in recovery is understanding how it could have happened. These are the factors that create the how, the ex's state of mind is the why. Why I continued my behavior, despite knowing it was not good for my marriage, is key. And you are spot on, I do hang around too long, in bad jobs, with bad friends, in bad relationships. I need to make decisions quicker, even when there is so much to lose. I used to be very different before I got engaged, certainly not a nice guy but felt marriage, being a father, that I should cut out the flirting, keeping the ex on her toes, take less risks, was the right person to be. It wasn't. I changed. The way I used to be worked before. The new me didn't, not in this marriage anyway. And of course, I understand that all could be perfect and it could still happen, but the most important part of your reply for me is this. Every one of my friends or family said, no, not STBX, that isn't her style at all. But what I did was influence her in a bad way, so that her character changed. I reiterate, this does not make my fault that she cheated, but I did contribute to the situation. I honestly believe, and the BS here will no doubt laugh, that if I had wanted this marriage to work and hadn't acted in this way, we would have been okay. I am sure she would have had a perfect working relationship with her boss, but it wouldn't have turned into not just friends. The non-verbal contracts part is very true though, but that was down to poor communication after I had tried to calm on my unhappiness. But got to go get a prostitute then line. Yes, red flag, should have got out quicker or gone to MC. I know that old life is gone, but for the first time I can see how I could change, to allow R, albeit one that would clearly take years, to have a chance. Now, that is okay from my side. Reality is, the ex is nowhere near considering R, and as you rightly point out, she herself is not acting with any remorse. An affair continues, but I wanted to see if it did appeal to me. It does, but the conditions won't be right for a minimum of years, all the way to never. So, I press on with D, but I guess, with keeping 180 going, the ex doesn't know that I even think like this. If she did, might she be less stubborn and consider it? I caught the affair very early. It was going on for 3 months. But truly, I knew the night the Pia started. She stayed at a hotel 10 miles away for work on a Monday, and I called it the day after, only for her to deny it. It took a few more meets for me to get the evidence. So, with that in mind, of course they pie with each other all the time now, but what women doesn't have history. At least I know hers, I know who he is, and I'd know if she was genuinely ready to give it another go. All of this might well be irrelevant, but it does help me take small steps forward. I have to consider R before I can reject it entirely. She does have character issues. She couldn't just leave me. She had to have someone else waiting. She couldn't be alone. But I changed her character. I have to admit some of that blame, else I might pick someone else with good character and make the same mistakes again and change her. My ex was a pretty decent woman all in all. We both made mistakes, as we all do, in the lead up to way before her EA, and she can still be that decent woman again. So why wouldn't I consider it? Why should OM be the one to reap the benefits? I want to hate her for what she has done to me and my boys. I want use that hate and anger to move on. I want to forget about her and the OM. How do I go about that? I have to stop and think. D-Day was only 2 months ago. I need to cut myself some slack on recovery. Of course, I want to come out fighting fit, but I have to be realistic. This takes time. It was all triggered by increased communication and further requests from the piece of crap ex to come and see my new house, or we need to be able to talk about things other than the kids. I need to nip her perfect world scenario in the bud, but how to approach it within 180 rules. Here is my brief email I propose to send, the final comms that aren't about my boys or the divorce. Builds are welcome. STBXW. I actually wrote a long letter to you, but, instead, I think it best summarized in the following. When you chose to start an emotional relationship with another man, we were still married. When you chose to cross the line further, and it turned physical, we were still married. Thus, your infidelity choice resulted in, among other things, the end of our marriage, the end of you seeing our children every day, the end of our friendship. Although I continue to be fully committed in communicating with you as part of co-parenting the boys and also to finalize our divorce amicably, please don't expect me to accept invites to visit the new house or to be friends. I never want to be friends with you. I do not need a friend who has that character, one who is willing to be unfaithful to their partner. Given the way we have ended up in this situation, you cannot, and will not, have it all. As the mother of my boys, I wish you all the best and hope you find the complete happiness you seek, OP. Finances are stable for now but will become debt-based post-D and critical if anything major goes wrong with car, house, health. Deal with that if it comes. Moving to 50% time with my boys will actually be a step back. I'd estimate time spent with them pre-D-Day to be 60 to 40 me. But I can now take them to mates for playdates or away to family, without having to fit into the piece of crap X weekly plan. But I agree, I can already see how better I am as a father in her absence, and feel closer than ever to DS2. Out for a few whiskeys in central London, for International Scotch Day tomorrow. That will be a nice treat. I'm 38-year-old, NSA does appeal, but I think I need to find the right channels to get that. Can't imagine anything serious for months, years. Oddly enough, catching it early and filing for D within 10 days actually meant she pushed on with the P quicker. That is probably a good thing, cause if I hadn't snooped, it would have been going on without me knowing. Fair play to you for navigating the choppy waters of R. I like the idea of it for stability, my kids, finances, but even today, I can see how I will be better off with someone else. If I can deal with the triggers and the trauma better, I will be in an okay place. My balls, albeit rather large for other reasons right now, are firmly in place, ready for the right time. In fact, not due to lack of balls, but the time might never be right, purely due to my mindset at that time and whether I give a damn or not. Blowing it up immediately on D-Day, for example, would have resulted, among other things, in the loss of her job, a ruined Christmas for the boys and a less than straightforward divorce settlement, but I know, from the text, that it would have only pushed them closer together. It matters not, I have considered R and know that I am better off by myself for now and someone new in the future. I have always been very emotional, but my common sense plus gut feel outweighs and win out most of the time. Hobbies always have been, playing football, golf, long distance running. Beer and whiskey nights with friends, going to watch football, cinema, films, researching trips abroad and providing financial advice, finding good deals for my family and mates. All of these are obviously easier now, on the days I don't have my boys. On that note, I've now had my boys 33 of the last 50 nights. This is a fair reflection of where they sit in my past priorities at the moment. Suits me though, building a stronger bond. Waiting for seal on financial order, about 7 weeks to go, before informing all parties. Any earlier, my sons will be financially worse off and have to move out of our home. She might lose job, so financially weaker, and BW might go ape Shanti and turn on anyone involved. Not needed. I've read all the texts, they are obsessed with each other. It hurts when I think how we might not have met if the motorway swallows me tonight. Remember, I loved you always. There comes a time in your life when you know you just have to be with someone. If we are together from now until death, the nights together won't be enough. He helped her move into her rented and even paid for half the stuff in it, as well building my 2 sons' furniture. She responded to my email. Hi, there are certainly some strong words here, which took me a little by surprise compared to some previous messages, but I understand where you are. I only offered the friendship hand because I thought it would be better for everyone. But if that's not what you want, I will accept that. I am certainly not trying to have it all, but was simply trying to get to a better relationship with you, as I thought that would help us and the children. I honestly hope that you will, eventually, also find true happiness. STBX. I sent it for me. Her requests and invitations were driving me mad. Now she knows. Previous messages, in last 4 weeks, have only been about divorce and kids, so are polite and to the point. I will continue to be polite in those comms. There will be no more comms on any other topic. The OMBW has, apparently, already met someone else too. So that's 3 out of 4 of us happy in new relationships. That leaves me, taking it steady, taking stock and building slowly. Have often felt like the odd one out, but this time, it feels right to be that one. I am finding peace within myself, but it does feel there are no consequences for cheaters, and that sits uneasy with me. I have given up spending energy on trying to understand why, but I do see how messed up the STBX must be to stop caring for a 4-year-old, not seeing him every day, barely 40% at the moment, instead booking dirty weekend away, nights out for dinner. Also, she can spend even more time than every day at work, with her boss. I forgot, he's her soulmate. Bad choice for me. She sure was. Realistically, exposure won't be until the consent order is sealed. This is taking much longer than I had wished, so still 6 weeks away. I have the letter, copies of the texts, and the timeline all ready to send though. STBX, only child, parents divorced when she was 8, dad gambler, and the mum protected her from that truth until an adult. She never got on with her mum, preferred her aunt, single, big drinker, instead, who pretty much raised her. She spoke to dad once or twice in our 17 years together, then he passed away April 2016 and she didn't go to funeral. Don't get me wrong, I knew all this and we got together, me 21, her 24. She only had 3 serious BF before me. The dad thing is obvious too. Her boss is 5 years older at 46, bald, old-looking and very dad-like. Ia likely started in June. Post-Pia snooping revealed she was searching for him around then, and in hindsight, she talked so highly of him around the same time. So glad the crazy cow is out of my life, but still concerned the impact on my kids. Picked them up from school today after them being at hers for last 5 nights. Both were shattered. Eldest told me in tears they didn't sleep well. They're in same room bunks at hers, separate at mine. Got confirmation today that bank will let me take on the mortgage myself. Big relief, and although it is an almighty financial commitment, it feels so important to allow stability for my 2 sons. Youngest has ear infection, so was at home with me today. Even ill, he is such a fun and clever little boy. I hope this all has minimal effect on him. LT. Then it was eldest son's parents' evening. This was the first social occasion with STBX and me since Christmas. Her friends were there, who I ignored. After acknowledging her presence, I ignored the STBX until it was time to speak to the teacher. X was dressed like the slapper she is, got my attention but for the wrong reasons. She tried to engage in small talk after, but I held 180, just asked her why boys are complaining they don't sleep well at hers. She suggested they were fibbing. Eldest son cried at bedtime again, referencing photo of us together, again. I told him this time, this is for the best, he is always welcome here and it will be alright. I talk a good game, just need to convince myself now. Here is where I need to be honest. I am snooping far too much on her and it has to stop. I am using the excuse that I want to get information to avoid any bumps in the divorce, financial settlement road. Indeed, without snooping around D-Day, I would potentially still be separated and expecting R, so it did serve a purpose. But now, all it does is give me details of her dates, physical life etc. of her and the OM. Not good but hard to not look. I guess I'd like to believe STBXW life is going to be hell, but it doesn't sound like it and I have to accept it may never be. Circus, monkeys etc. I have my list of big aims and I am dipping my toe into dating. The self-esteem boost is amazing. New house will be fun when time comes, agreed. I am taking a break from her on FB, so I don't see any updates, but it's the logging and snooping that has to stop. Right, I feel better again today. Date lined up for next week. She seems a bit nervous, lacking in confidence, but nothing ventured. Met with mutual friends who are over from California for a prearranged short trip. They are great family, but Link is her friend really. Had great time, went to the football. I mostly avoided X-chat, but the female friend did tell me STBX told me you think she cheated on you. Why is that? Because she did, was my answer. Then played the I'm glad she is happy now line, as I know she will see them this weekend. I guess the sad realization is I cannot be friends with this family anymore if I truly want to disconnect and move on. Such are the losses from infidelity and divorce, I guess. I so wish I could expose with all the timeline, dates, texts before history rewrite takes over further, but there is just too much to lose to do it right now. Breathe. I will get through this. Just hate the audacity of the storytelling to avoid the truth that she is really a cheater. I am moving on until someone pops up and tells me I don't understand why you can't be friends. It's not like she cheated on you. OM wife knows, apparently, and, apparently, has a new man too. Probably did already have one during all this. Piece of crap everywhere. People were persistent on me telling the OMW. So, I emailed her this afternoon saying I'd be happy to talk. She replied immediately with contact details, so I've just spent the last 2 hours on the phone with her. She had been contemplating telling me her suspicions for months, but, just like me, had too much to lose to risk it. So much information, I can't remember half of it but the main points. OMW said she knew he was obsessed with my STBXW from day one she joined the work, back in April 16th, so yeah, from April. OMW also met OM at her work and he played exactly the same game with her. OM was married when OMW met him and had already left another at the altar. OM had an affair 6 years ago, played the same routine again, took her to all the places he is taking my STBX. OMW forgave him for sake of kids. She thinks OM and my ex had slept together on October 16th but has no firm proof. He told her they only got together late January 17th. I set her straight. He is broken about leaving his kids as they both hate him now, but the kids also blame OMW because he blames shifted and told them it was her fault. OMW and OM had a perfectly normal marriage, regular bonding, right up to end of November 16th. OM is telling his wife to cut back on spending, yet he is spending a fortune on my ex. Told her to get into financial mediation next week and take him to the cleaners, checking every piece of spending over past 6 months, with me if she likes. He told her they didn't need it and he will make sure she is looked after. Told her what I thought of that. We are now teasing our STBXWH about having spoken with each other. Yes, this is a potential risk to my financial settlement. Divorce, but you know what? I don't give a crap. I'm over this. Whatever will be, will be. Looking forward to my new life, be it in this house or another. Be it will 50% of the kids' time with me or more. Be it if I have to get a new job. Be it if I have to find a new path. It really is going to be alright. And most of you were right too. It's going to be living hell for the XW. An update up on the OBS situation. OM claims I called to cause maximum damage, that I lie and my motivation is to hurt my STBX. He claimed he was no influence in divorce proceedings and that he wasn't mentioned in mediation. Reminder: STBX asked me to not tell her work, be friends with them all as part of mediation. Apparently, the date he told his wife they'd got together was only a few weeks ago, the 1st of February. She knew it was a lie already, but I gave her my dates from texts. He then went on to tell OBS that during my marriage I was extremely aggressive and that I am now behaving like a petulant child. He then praised her for her not acting like that and can't see why I can't be more like her about this. They are desperate to know how I found her for some reason. She didn't tell him. Today he said to her that my timing was very interesting and he'd like to know what game I'm playing. STBX friends are mixed. Some say get a hitman to teach me a lesson. She really is the biggest slag this side of Nottingham. Shout out to Danny. Some say get a lawyer to warn me about my behavior, calling another female. But others say that she got away lightly before now and should expect me to be bitter, nasty and after revenge. What revenge? This is about morals, justice, truth, integrity. Think I've ruffled a few feathers. I'm already laughing really, but taking it a bit too personal when it results in people asking why I can't be friends with the mother of my kids, for the sake of the kids. I am not being friends with her for the sake of the kids, so they know people shouldn't do this. Well, given OBS has already let him cheat once, I believe her when she says it's over and she's not sad at all. No way back, and she is encouraging me to be the same. But I know the guilt over his kids is massive. They hate him. That's got to be tough for a father after 15 years to hear that. Still, they both only have each other now, so it's eggs in one basket time and I'm looking forward to pancakes. Fairly quiet day today, lovely laughter with my boys at bath time. That always seemed stressful when X was around. Did speak to mother-in-law though, she's always as useless at best and came out with these things just happen sometimes. No one goes out seeking someone else when they are married. Politely told her to screw off and that they knew exactly what lines they were crossing. Last time I speak to her, she did tell me that STBX aunt, who effectively brought her up, had an affair with a married man for 20 years. History repeating. Glad to be rid of that useless family. What was I thinking back in the day? I feel am I close to detachment? Well, the best I can give the ongoing divorce and the co-parenting. I care less this week about what others think too. There is being supportive to your friends and then there is utter stupidity. Most fall into the latter and that's not my problem. I took some legal advice on the work exposure. Apparently, even if the consent order is sealed, until the decree absolute is granted, a job change or loss could result in a judge revoking the financial agreement. Plus, there is the OBS to think about. She too needs the OM to be working, to allow her to get a fair settlement. Issue is, divorce might not be until early July now, and by then, who knows what the work situation will be. It is frustrating, but I feel the decision has to be made based on the impact on my boys. Work must know, but I feel the OM is so senior and quite a controlling bully according to the OBS, so I think they will be fear for anyone to intervene. It will be obvious they are together, I'm sure. But like I say, we both need them to stay in jobs to allow the settlement to go through. I am pushing for quick divorce and can't do anything to speed it up. I have played hard but fair and am agreeing with STBX request that we move forward. She might be considering challenging me on assets, now that I've contacted OBS, but I'm okay with it. My mental health and boys are more important than money. Going to drop my disappointment about her lying about me to others. I know the truth and my good friends do too. First date with a new friend last night. I was really nervous, much more than my previous first date. Think this was down to the fact she is extremely good looking. I have lost a huge amount of confidence and self-esteem due to the infidelity, going from a really outgoing, confident guy to what feels like a boring and timid guy who has to justify everything I say. That said, we had a couple of cocktails over 3 hours and I managed to listen way more than I talked, which was good. She is stunning, intelligent, talented, artist in spare time, independent, and very laid back. I couldn't help but feel I wasn't good enough for her. Interestingly, she brought up kids and I asked if she wanted to have children and she does. So, I sensed that she wasn't keen on a ready-made family. She knew I had kids pre-date, but rather wanted one of her own, which is totally understandable. I guess it is all good though, getting back out there, getting to see different personalities and seeing how the dating world works these days. OMW just called me. OM has told her he is moving back to near them, so he can see his kids and for her to expect my STBXW to be there too. He currently rents in same town as their work. My STBXW rents in my town. This new city is a 2-hour drive from their work, my hometown, and therefore, the boys' schools. So, either one, STBXW is planning a swoop to move the boys up to this location. I will fight the piece of crap every step of the way. Or 2, she is going to be in my town for the week she has the boys and be 80 miles away. Then commute south to her work on the week she hasn't. Or 3, she is going to give up parenting them except for every other weekend. Plan to somehow work it out that way. OMW also knew OM had applied for jobs in a town 4 hours drive away from current work, my town, so 2 hours north from their planned new location. Bit of an odd week. I've tried to step back from all the drama and view this situation at a distance. On Sunday, the OBS, quite understandably given the OM was blackmailing her by saying she had to do what he said to ensure he plays financial ball, had a bit of a wobble. She actually threw a glass at him, locked him in the annex at their house, so he had to climb out of the window, and then wrote a text to his boss and threatened to send it to their work. Fortunately, she told me this and I was able to remind her that it is in our interest that they both earn, so she backed down and things seem calm now. Given all that, I had to speak to the STBXW for the first time in 3 weeks or so, as she was about to freak out. I was calm, told her I am moving on and all I want is to ensure OM is going to be a decent man around my children and for us to achieve the agreed financial clean break and divorce ASAP. Estimated date is end of May. She took it all in but still so cold and heartless, which strangely was quite comforting to me. I know I am free of that now. She did, once again, offer for me to meet OM. What are people's thoughts on that? Personally, I have no desire, but on one hand, I'd quite enjoy grilling him, but on the other, I think it is playing to their beat that everything will be okay, they are in control. Interestingly, OBS tells me that the OM came back from a work trip from USA, where he uses to take her along too, in a very reminiscing mood and gave the line I know I screwed up and was looking for hugs, as, apparently, he was all over Christmas and New Year. She also tells me that there is a history of mental illness in his family and his mum thinks he is ill, which is why he is doing this. Given all the stories form his past and how he is acting now, both myself and the OBS suspect that he is a narcissist. Good luck with that, STBX. Last few days, I've noticed me grieving, not depressively, nor tearful, just mentally, the loss of life map, some more, so the one family unit, working as a team, keeping finances in check, all for the best possible future for my boys. All of that is in smoke, and I can accept that, but it still disappoints me, especially as my hand has been forced on the issue of only seeing my boys, at best, half of the time. I am also reading up on my need for validation in this marriage. Really good to be able to step back and see the unhealthy nature of this, something I hope I can change. I also realize I'm not ready to date. I'm resisting setting up a second date with an amazing girl because of this. It's a shame, but I don't want to mess her around. Baby steps. My comment, meeting him is not a good idea. The time will come if they stay together. Don't meet him yet. At some point in the future, you may be in a settled frame of mind to deal with it. But I think right now it would be needlessly upsetting. Part 3 ending coming later today. Sub if you haven't, and I will see you in the end.